Hello again, everyone. So this is a follow-up on my Watership Down transcription project. And this is sort of the second half. Well, not really half because it wasn't as long as the first half. But this is my documentation of the Tales from Watership Down, which I currently have in the back of this E-Class from Chic Sparrow. This is in the Evanwood leather, but it's no longer available. Neither the style nor leather is available. So I just wanted to put that out of the way at the beginning. I got this used and it was already a little scuffed up, and I thought it was perfect for this project. And I will warn you that I already have tried recording this video once and it was just getting too long. So I am going to go through the flip through a little bit faster than I was going in that video, just so that you can get a sense of, everything that I have in here, but still keep it interesting and a little bit shorter as a video. So for those of you that don't remember, I'll put a link down below to my other videos where I talked about the actual Watership Down portion of the transcription. And at the end of that, I was really wanting to continue. So I thought, well, I've never read Tales from Watership Down before, and this will be a great way to read that book and transcribe it and have it be sort of part of the series. So I really enjoyed this book as well. Sort of the difference after finishing the main Watership Down book, where I just wanted to keep going. At the end of this one, Tales from Watership Down, I felt like, well, I need a break now, at the very least. And I don't know if I'll continue doing another book or whatever, but one of the books, and I'll show you, one of the books I was planning to do after this Tales of Watership Down is The Private Life of the Rabbit. And this is the book that Richard Adams used as sort of inspiration and research for rabbit behavior and that sort of thing for the book. I haven't actually read through this yet because I was thinking if I was going to transcribe it, I would, read it while I'm doing that. So I'm not really quite sure. I'm going to take a break from this for a while and then maybe come back to this. I might just keep this as a companion book just in and of itself. This was a used book, obviously. It's no longer in print, so I purchased it used. But we'll see. We'll see how I feel about it after taking a little bit of a break. I might want to go back to just being able to write and just sort of not have to think about writing, which is what was the great part of this, and it was really a great way to absorb the story. But yeah, so basically, this is the same book or the same paper. This is the new Tomoe River paper, and this is a Nanami Cafe Notes A5 in the Crossfield version of with the new Tomoe River paper. So the new Tomoe River paper was the same paper that I used for the second half of Watership Down, and I started this in the same paper. In retrospect, if I hadn't gotten so far along in this paper, I probably would have used a different notebook, because I really am not a fan of the new Tomoe River paper. Like I was saying before, it does work better with finer nibs than broader nibs, but it still is not the most pleasant writing experience. And I also had some issues with some little parts of the paper that wouldn't take the ink. And at first I thought that was just the oils from my hands rubbing off on the paper, which sometimes causes creates a resist to ink. But some pages that was just, I was not touching it at any place where it was having that problem. So I do wonder if they sort of have a little bit of a manufacturing issue with the coating, because I was having some trouble with some of them. And before I get into this flip through, I also wanted to let you know that I have been doing a little bit of testing with Cosmo Air Light paper, which I am actually really liking, but I find that sort of the opposite is true of the Cosmo Air Light as is true for this Tomoe River paper, the second edition Tomoe River paper. I think on that paper, broad nibs work better than finer nibs. Finer nibs sometimes they kind of sink down into the thicker paper. But it really shows ink very well. But I'm going to be doing that, showing you what I've tested so far on Cosmo Air Light in a separate video, and I do still want to do the testing of individual papers on the channel. I just haven't gotten around to it. I've been crazy busy with work, so it's been really hard to focus on any videos of any length. So, so let's get in here, and I'll try to keep it short. So in the beginning, just the contents and the title, I did those with my Sailor Shikiori markers, much like I did with the other one. I do plan to, or hopefully, we'll see if it happens, to number the pages. I still haven't done it on the other one. One other thing is I didn't leave any pages for illustrations in this one, but because this book is shorter than Watership Down, quite a bit shorter actually, I had this much of the notebook left at the end, which I figure I can reserve for illustrations. Part of the reason why I didn't reserve pages as I was going along is that I found that I left quite a few pages in the Watership Down first book. So it's going to take a little while to get through all those illustrations, and I didn't really want to put that pressure on for this book, so I just went straight through. Okay, so with a lot of these, I'm not going to really talk about each of the individual inks or pens and ink, but I will stop every now and then to kind of point some things out. Part of the reason why I'm not going to be doing that is because I did do quite a few shorter writing bursts with different pens and ink, just because I wanted to try out a lot of things. And I wanted to switch around nibs, and I wanted to switch around inks with the same pens and see. You know, I kind of wish that I had done this on Cosmo Era paper, because then maybe I would have gotten a little bit more experience out of that. But still, I think at a certain point, you can tell how things write, even on this paper, which I would consider is just not to my taste. I mean, I don't want to say that it's bad. It just it's just really not to my taste. And I did test out a lot of cursive type nibs. So like this is a Franklin Christoph Sig nib. And I've been switching those in and out of different pens to see where I like them the best. Oh, and what's kind of interesting here is this is Van Diemen's Black and Seas with this fine Sig nib, and this first writing sample here in here, this is also Black and Seas, but in a bold nib. So you can kind of see how different inks look very differently depending on which pen and nib they're used with. So, and this is another nib that I've really been liking writing with. This is the 0.6 stub nib from Birmingham Pen Company. I have it on my Barbados. I think they use Nemacine nibs, but I'm not positive. But I'm really liking that sort of thing. And again, 1.1 stubs. This is a Goulet 1.1 stub. Works great. I ended up using a lot of Robert Oster ink in here. This one I will talk about a little bit. This is the Platinum 3776 with a soft fine nib. I actually really liked that. I haven't shown the pen yet on the channel, but I will at some point. One thing that I noticed though as I was going through is that I had to prime the nib occasionally because the nib would kind of go dry. And that's how I ended up with this dot here on the paper. And some pens, like this Omas, this vintage Omas, I've been trying to find the right ink for it. I just have not found the right combination yet. So we will see. We will see how that goes. This is one of my favorites. This is Bennu Euphoria Vodka on the Rocks with a fine nib with Pilot Konpeki. I really love that combo. So I'm just going to flip through here. And this is Mulled Wine by Diamine with my Peniter Avatar. Beautiful ink, beautiful pen. And let's see if there's any. Yeah, and so this is that same Omas pen, but with Lexington Gray by Noodlers, and that wasn't working too well either. Sometimes, you know, you just can't do it right. And also, there are a lot of, part of the reason why I use the same pen multiple times is, even with the same nib, is sometimes I smooth the nib. So I wrote with it without it being smooth and then after it being smooth. And so I could kind of see the the writing. So this is, I showed this combination recently on the channel, Pilot Custom 823 with the Kobe number 57 ink. Unfortunately, with longer writing, the ink tends to get a little bit lighter, even if you leave the back knob open on the 823. But it's still a good combination, I think. And I have to find out what ink this is, because this is my Sean Pocket Pen, Pocket 6. And it came with this Monteverde ink cartridge, and I love the purple. It's very awesome. So let's see. Waterman Mysterious Blue is an ink that I've actually been really liking. This one I still had some problems with. It's KWZ Sheen Machine. I think that has a sort of, it like gunks up the works a little bit. So like I said, I'm only going to focus on pens or inks that I think might be fun for you to hear about. And this one is Krishna Pakaza, so that might be interesting to see. And Great Southern Ocean, used a lot of that. And let's see. Yeah, I'm really loving this Pannonia Pelican Green ink in fine nibbed pens. I actually used it in a couple of fine nibbed pens. So this is the Opus 88 Omar demo with a 1.5 stub nib. I've actually since swapped this out, but I really love this Urushi Red, and this is actually a great combo. I think it's a little too big for everyday writing, so I swapped out the nibs on that. Yeah, and this was the Fine Architect at the very beginning before I had smoothed it. Here, where it's very thin and fine, and the ink didn't flow very well, so I switched it out to an Opus 88 fine nib. But later on, after I smoothed it, I'll show you, it actually turned out really well. Journaler nib by Esterbrook with Sailor's Sailor ink, which is amazing, an amazing combination. I really, really love that. And this is Robert Oster's Sydney Lavender, which I had put in this Pilot Custom 74 instead of Robert Oster Viola, and this is working so much better. I really, really love it. Let's see. So I think I probably got a little bit more in the weeds with these pen and ink combinations here. Oh, so this is that Fine Architect nib after I smoothed it, which you can see the ink flow is so much better. It's just night and day. It's one of my favorite nibs now. Let's see. Yeah, and I did smooth my White Tortoise M400 just a little bit. I had a little area of the nib that was catching just a little bit, and it was kind of, getting in the way of my writing experience. I was able to get rid of that little catch, and it's lovely now. Let's see. Yeah. So I've realized that smoothing stub nibs is a lot harder than smoothing regular nibs. So I'm trying to be a little bit more careful. And with that Architect nib that I smoothed, I was very, very light with my smoothing because I did not want to get rid of the Architect nature of it, where it's, thin line up and down, fatter line side to side. So I'm trying to just do a little bit at a time. Oh, and so this one, I'll show you sort of the difference between these. So this is Vert Atlantide by J. Herban, or Gerban. So this is a Moonman Wankai Clear Demo, which is a little pocket pen, and this is with their fine nib after I had smoothed it a little bit. But I'll show you, I actually put I put an Esterbrook nib on there. I didn't like that nib on the original pen it was in, but after I put it on, oh, and this is Pelican 4001 Brilliant Brown, which is lovely. I'm really loving it. It's a little dry, but it's okay in that particular pen. What was I saying now? Oh yeah, so the Esterbrook nib, after smoothing it a little bit and putting it on that little pocket pen, it's actually working really well. hopefully I won't go buy it too fast and I'll be able to find it. Oh, and I did, okay, so this is it here, I think. Yeah, so this is, and you can see it's a little bit of a fatter line. This ink is beautiful. I think this pen ink nib combination is actually one of my favorites right now, even though that pen is like 20 bucks. But I'm really, really loving that combo. But one thing I did want to mention is that in the course of like swapping out nibs with different pens, I found that my Traveler's Company, the little Traveler pen, this is the factory green, you can interchange Schmidt nib units with it. So, which Visconti is actually interchangeable with that as well. So I put my Visconti bold nib in there, which doesn't even look bold with this particular drier ink, Ancient Copper. But it's lovely. Like, I really love that combo. And later on, I have another one of those pens, and I put a medium Schmidt nib that I got off of Jet Pens in it, and like here. And this is really beautiful too. So because part of the reason why I wasn't really gravitating towards that pen too much is because it had such a fine nib, and you know, sometimes I just didn't want to write with a fine nib. So I was really happy to find out that I could swap it out. Oh, so this is another pen that you haven't seen. And there's a long story to it. I'll probably do that in a separate video. But this is now my Sailor 1911 large with a bold nib. There's a story as to why I even have that. And I first tried it with Die Trementis Johann Sebastian Bach, which I only had as a sample. And I'm so glad I just got a sample of it because it's way too dry. And I really don't like it, actually. So yeah, so I switched that out to another ink, which is way better now. And I have been using some of my ink samples for this as well. And I don't know if you could, yeah, so this is Birmingham Voltaic Arc, this ink, and you can't really see the sheening all that well, which is a shame. Because you can on pens like, or on paper like the Cosmo Air Light. It's been a long day. I know I say that a lot on the channel, but often I'm recording things after the end of my day. And the days can be a little long. Okay, so this is my new special edition Kaweco Lilac Sport, and I put Mont Blanc Cobalt Violet in it, and it's kind of a perfect combination. It's a little bit light. The ink is a little bit light, but I do like it in that pen. And actually that I wrote with this right after I put the ink in, and after it sat for a little while it seemed to be a little bit darker. This is Monteverde Cherry Danish ink, which I'm not a big fan of. There's several Monteverde inks I'm not a big fan of. It either dumped ink, and this could also be the nib. It could be. It either dumped ink or it started to get too light. So I just was not a fan of that. Okay, so we're approaching the end here. Oh, and there was one that I probably have already gone past, but I do want to show you at some point. I have a vintage nib now on one of my Esterbrook Estes because I got the little adapter, and then I got a vintage nib after researching which one I'd want to get. And it really writes well. I'll have to show it on the channel at some point. So that's the end. This got a little messed up because I started with a Sailor 1911 Junior that actually I think I may have damaged by trying to get more of a wet ink flow with that same Johann Sebastian ink by Die Trementis, by the way. I think that ink is just too dry for just about any pen. So I was trying to get a wetter line, and I think I may have damaged my nib. So I had to switch to another pen, and I was like starting with that, and I had to write over it. It was kind of a mess, but but it worked out okay. So like I said, I have this much left at the end that I'm just going to reserve for illustrations and things. If I do end up deciding to transcribe this book, I will use a different paper for sure. Or I might go back to the original Tomoe River paper because I do have some notebooks with that paper in it. But right now I'm kind of in a holding pattern. I'm not going to be doing anything more on transcribing anything at this point in time. For right now, to kind of take up space in this notebook, I'm just going to keep the original book in the back. This is the one that I used and referenced when I transcribed it, and it fits really nicely in this back folio pocket here in the back here. So it's a good size. If I don't end up doing anything else, I'll probably just leave it like this. But if I do have a second volume in here for the private life of the rabbit, I will remove the book, keep it separately, and put that in here. But there you go. So that's it for now. So like I said, I probably won't have any updates until I start to do it again or decide, I might have an update if I decide not to do it and let you know why. But basically, I am going to try to focus on another project that I have going on, which is more of a commonplace book. And I actually haven't even started it yet, but I have a bunch of different prompts to set up things in a commonplace book, and I have a lot of ideas for sections in there and everything. So I will probably do a video on that, at least once I've gotten started on that. So that's all I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know if you have any questions and I'll answer them as soon as I can. I'll put the links, I may have mentioned this already, but I'll put the links down below to the other videos in this transcription series, as I'm going to call it. So you can refer back to those to see the flip throughs and sort of the progress report for those other volumes that I did the original Watership down in. So to be continued on paper testing, though. This just kind of solidified the fact that I do not like the new Tomoe River paper. I'm never going to buy another Tomoe River paper notebook with the new paper. That's kind of my resolve at this point. I think I do have like 1 or 2 other notebooks with this same new paper. I'll probably find a use for that, but outside of that, I don't plan to buy anymore. I'm going to focus on other brands. Maybe this Cosmo Air Light will be my new go-to. We'll see. And hopefully it'll become more readily available if that is the case. But like I said, that's for another video. So feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but until then, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.